Hello and welcome back to Inside Tennessee Football's practice facility. I'm Ryan Sylvia. This is Noah Taylor. We're at VolReport.com on the Rivals Network. And just after Tennessee took down Virginia, we're back to talking with head coach Josh Heupel and wide receiver Bru McCoy to talk a little bit about what happened last Saturday, what they expect to happen next Saturday, and everything in between. So without further ado, let's jump into our takeaways from it. First things first, we got the injury update everyone's been waiting on guys like Squirrel White, who got injured and didn't return, guys like Tyler Berry and Amari Thomas, who got banged up but did return in the game, and then even Bru McCoy talked about his health. Kind of wrap it all up in one sentence is they're all fine.
Yeah.
According to Heupel, and Bru himself said that if the scoring situation was different, he probably would have let Squirrel White back into the game in the first place. But of course, they didn't need him, so why put him back out there? But they expect to have Squirrel healthy. They expect to have those two defensive linemen healthy. And Bru McCoy was asked about his health, and of course, you're not feeling your best after playing a football game, but he says he's fine as well. So that was my biggest takeaway from Heupel is just the health of the team. Wanted to get that out there first and foremost. But Noah, what was your biggest takeaway from what Heupel had to say?
Yeah, a little bit along those same lines of the offensive line, because the biggest thing you were missing on Saturday was Cooper Mays at center. That's been the talk of all of fall camp. Tennessee may have had him for a week into fall camp before so he's been out a long time. And the question was, how was that offensive line going to look with all the moving parts, having to rotate guys into positions you may not really want them in, you may want them somewhere else. And Josh Heupel was asked about that, and that offensive line played really well. It's hard to complain when you rush for almost 300 yards and you have three different guys who are averaging, I think, 5 or more yards a carry. So, Pat, gave them a high grade, those guys, and that really bodes well for Tennessee, because we still don't know how long Cooper Mays is going to be out. Ideally, you'd like to see him get some reps against Austin Peay this week before you go into Gainesville. That remains to be seen. Maybe we'll find out more about that during the week. But overall, I think Josh Heupel was pleased, and should be, with the way that offensive line worked. He said they rolled out there with mainly 8 guys, and they had as many as 13, I think, at one point. So a very busy day for them, but a really good performance.
Yeah, I think there's obviously areas that need to be cleaned up after a week 1 performance, but I think overall you're pretty happy with how the offensive line looked. I think about that first touchdown, Joe Milton, just plenty of time in the pocket to get to his third read and hit Dylan Sampson for that touchdown pass. Like I said, areas to clean up, but I think that you're pretty satisfied, considering especially the injury of Cooper Mays and him not being able to play. But let's talk about what Bru McCoy had to say. I thought it was interesting. He was asked about that Ramel situation where Ramel dropped that deep ball from Joe that looked like it was probably going to be a touchdown. And he kind of asked, hey, what do you do when a receiver drops a pass like that? Do you go and try to pick him up? Do you kind of leave him be? And Bru was like, Ramel knows that he should have caught it. Ramel's fine. He's hard on himself. We don't need to pile on or anything. So, just kind of support him and keep his confidence up. But I thought it was interesting. Bru also said it's almost a harder pass to catch than when you're contested, because you're so wide open. You see the end zone, you see all the green in front of you. It can be a little tough to sometimes bring that one in. So Bru kind of understood where Ramel was coming from on that drop, but he also said that there's no reason to think that shouldn't be kind of cleaned up and improved. Ramel, one of the harder working guys on the team, from what everyone said this offseason, just constantly catching deep balls, whether it's from quarterbacks or jug machines, and has some phenomenal hands. But Bru McCoy gave a little bit of an insight into Ramel Keaton's game, which I thought was interesting. But Noah, what was your biggest takeaway from what Bru had to say?
You're 100% right about the inside. That was really interesting listening to him today, because he talked about himself, which I'm going to get to here in a second, but also just about that room in general, what it's like being a receiver. You talked about the play with Ramel. Maybe people don't think about that when they're in that position. So really cool listening to him. And the one thing that kind of stood out to me was he talked about his getting hit in the shoulder. Obviously, he missed all of spring with that issue. He's back now. He said that's part of the game, and he doesn't shy away from taking a hit. And one of his best quotes today was, I was told, pretty early on, you're going to get hit anyway, you might as well hang on to the football. So, and the guy plays that way. Where's the number 15? There were times last year he looked a little bit like Jawan Jennings out there, kind of bulldozing guys, carrying defenders on his back. Hopefully we'll get to see a little bit more out of Bru this season. But definitely a guy, even with the shoulder stuff, doesn't shy away from contact, which is something you'd want out of a receiver. And I talked about the big play on Saturday that was, we talked about on the podcast this morning. One of Joe Milton's best passes on Saturday ended up just missing that sideline there and being out of bounds. But he talked about that, and basically you watch that one and move on. He'll get another opportunity, he said, against Austin Peay, which I think he will.
Yeah, obviously that play that he just couldn't keep in bounds on. Very physical catch, kind of using his size to hawk that ball down. But I think he finished with only one catch by the end of the game, but he did have one play where that kind of showed his physicality.
Yeah.
Came back for, I think, a hold, but kind of caught a short little hook, scampered down the sideline. Scamper's not even really the right word. He carried some defenders down the sideline, nearly picked up a first down. I think that's the Bru McCoy that we're going to see a lot too. Early down situations, you want to get the ball going, you want to get the offense rolling, get the ball in his hands, and he can muscle you towards the first down marker. But that was all we had today. We'll be back tomorrow, though. We'll have coordinators, players, and more information leading up to this Austin Peay game. And then, of course, the Vols heading to the Swamp. So a pivotal week as Tennessee doesn't want to overlook an opponent, but wants to kind of make sure their preparation is where it needs to be as they head into a tougher slate in their schedule. But thank you for watching. Make sure you head over to VolReport.com for all of our written content, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We have videos of the press conferences. We posted our podcast earlier today. We'll have Checkerboard Chatters with Tyler Ivins coming out, and we have everything else you need Tennessee athletics-wise. Make sure you subscribe. Links to everything is in the description. Thank you for watching.